Welcome to the Unfiltered Friends podcast, where we humanize your favorite creators through their personal stories and then learn something from them. I hope you feel inspired by today's guest, and if you do, share it with someone who needs it. So without further ado, here is Unfiltered Friends. Hello, Unfiltered Friends. Today we have on Chris Punsalan. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
Yeah, good. Chris Punsalan. Near and dear to my heart what he's doing for his grandma, being a caretaker for her and sharing that experience. I think it's an aspect of life that people try to avoid talking about. We had a hospice worker on here. Now we have a caretaker, and it's within the family, and he's built a massive following surrounding this, and also just like warming my cold heart watching him interact. And I'm really excited to like learn about what it is that you do. So hello. So to you, tell me what is a caretaker from your perspective, the way you experience it?
Oh man, what a question. What is a caretaker?
Is that what you call yourself, as a caretaker?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I more than anything, I mean, that's the title I guess I give myself. I really just see myself as a grandson who helps his grandma. Mm-hmm. It's less of a caregiver and I'm just a regular grandson, you know. But because I am employed by the state to as a caregiver, I guess that's the title that I give myself. And to me, it just means helping out as much as I can, doing the daily tasks that my grandma used to do for herself. And yeah, what a question. It's very loaded, because I do so much for my grandmother, and it's hard to just put it all into like, into a paragraph. But yeah, I just help her out with everything that she needs help with. And yeah, I'm just a grandson.
I mean, I'm sure there'll be people who would argue you're a bit more than that, especially with the amount of I never had to do any of the things or did any of the things that you do for your grandmother on a daily basis. You said registered with the state. Can you talk about that process a little bit? Like, what does it take to be able, is there like legalities being a grandson taking care of her in this way?
I don't know what the legalities are. There's a company here in the state of Nevada that just they provide care for elderly, or I guess anybody that needs care, and it's as easy as just signing up and going through yearly training and getting yearly TB tests and background check. It's just like having a regular job,
Mm-hmm.
And the only difference is, I guess, in this case, it's just for my grandmother. And I realize every year through training, I meet new people, new caregivers, and I realize that more and more there are many caregivers out here that are taking care of family, which is really nice to see. Because I get a lot of messages every day from nurses and from people who work in hospices and home care. And they're like, it's really nice to see people taking care of family, because there's a lot of people in here that wish they were being taken care of by family. Mm-hmm. So, and it breaks my heart to hear that. And I know that everybody's situation is different. But yeah, it's just really nice to see other people also taking care of their family.
Okay. So what was, first of all, what led up to your grandma needing you to be a caretaker? What was that process like?
So we actually had, so when she started needing more help around the house, we had a caregiver coming to the house five times a week. She would come in, which is funny because like the person that was coming in to help my grandmother was also a little bit older, and she needed help helping my grandmother. Huh. So I would be the person that would lift my grandmother to the commode when the other caregiver would need to change her and wash her and do all those things. So that was my introduction, and that's sort of how I was introduced to the idea that my grandmother was getting old and she's on the decline, Mm-hmm. So that, I guess that was the beginning of it. And that was maybe like 11, 12 years ago. Mm. And then, so that was the beginning. And then I can't remember the year, but I've been her caregiver now for about 8 years. I was about to graduate college. The other caregiver that used to come to the house couldn't come anymore. So me and my family were trying to figure out where was my grandma going to go, like, because, my parents work full time. The rest of her family works full time. It's like really difficult to help a loved one if you're working a full time job. And I was about to graduate college and I didn't have any opportunities ahead. So I was like, you know what? Instead of sending grandma to a house or a home, let me just step up and take on the responsibility. So that's what I did.
So do you think it, because that's unfortunately kind of like a rare thing, because it's also a lot of responsibility. Like my grandma on my mother's side, we noticed that she started to have some like cognitive issues. She
Mhm.
eventually passed away from dementia, and like she left a candle out and it like set stuff on fire, and it just started to be dangerous for
Yeah.
her to be on her own. But my parents didn't have the capacity to give her the care
Hmm.
that she needed. What made you think that you had the capacity to take care of someone at this stage of their life with whatever struggle she was having?
Um, I don't know. I kind of just went in blind, to be honest. I had
Mm-hmm.
no idea what caregiving meant or what sort of tasks I'd have to do because I was never, like I said, I just come to help the caregiver do the physical things and then she would take on the rest. So I didn't know sort of the responsibilities that I had to take on. So when I said I was up and ready to do it, I had no idea what I was signing up for. I just knew that I love my grandmother. She took care of me and all of us and the rest of my family. So it only makes sense to return the favor.
Yeah.
So
Do you feel like maybe there's a cultural aspect as to taking care of elderly people? Because you're a Filipino, is my understanding.
yeah.
Is there a cultural component in the Filipino culture of taking care of elder ones in your family?
Yeah, I didn't realize that though until recently that it was a cultural thing that many
Mm.
Filipinos take care of family. I just grew up thinking that everyone took care of family and that everybody had close they were close with their family, they were close to their parents, they lived with their parents until they got married and moved out, and even if they got married and had kids they still stayed at the house. I thought that was normal. I didn't know of life outside of that. So when I started making these videos and people started messaging me, I started realizing, oh, this is very special and very cultural to Filipinos that they take care of elders or they're very close to their family until the end. So I just now realized. I mean, makes me sound very ignorant that I didn't realize what was going on in other cultures, but I just thought it was the normal to help your grandma or grandpa. You know?
Yeah, it's something that I know because I've my ex-girlfriend is Filipino, and I was around her family. Is like that family unit is so, it's not that it's not important in other cultures, it just seems to be a lot more prevalent
Yeah.
with Filipino people. How do the other people in your do you have other people in your household with you, and how do they contribute to taking care of her?
Oh yeah, so I live with my parents, and with my parents, my brother, and my other grandma, who is my dad's mother. The grandma that I take care of is my mom's mother, which is a blessing to have both of them in the house. Now I'm starting to realize how rare that is to live with both of your grandmas. But yeah, everybody contributes it's almost impossible to say how much they do, but it wouldn't be possible. Like taking care of grandma wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for my other family members. My mom, she helps with almost all the personal tasks in the morning. We're on like a really tight schedule, so in the morning it's me and my mom. In the afternoon it's me and my grandma taking care of my grandma, and at night we all kind of take turns and help out grandma. So it's just a beautiful thing to witness. And again, it wasn't until making these videos that I realized how special it really was, because when you're in the thick of caregiving, you kind of get into a rhythm and you don't realize like what it is that you're doing. It's kind of become second nature. But when you watch it back, when
Mm-hmm.
I'm editing these videos, I see how beautiful it is and how it makes me well up a little bit, because like it just seeing my family like come together for one cause, and that's just to help out grandma. It's really nice to see.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful watching you guys talk to each other. And when it comes to like language, I'm only
Mhm.
familiar with Tagalog, and that was the assumption until I heard Campanga. Can you say it?
Kapampangan,
Say it again.
kapampangan.
Kampampangang.
That's pretty close,
Close
man. Yeah.
enough. Um,
Yeah.
where's that from? Where like I only know of Tagalog. So like, is that
Mhm.
specific to a certain region in the Philippines or?
Yeah, I believe it. Don't quote me on this, but I believe it originated in Pampanga, which
Mm,
I think is like a section of the Philippines, and then obviously there are many cities within Pampanga. So my
mhm.
parents are from Bamban, Tarlac, and that's and pretty much everybody in Bamban speaks Kapampangan, and then it kind of stretches out and reaches other regions of Pampanga. But I believe it was originated there.
Yeah. It was really
Yeah.
interesting to yeah, I just loved listening to you guys talk. We
Yeah.
we had some good cries today, looking all that stuff up. So she seems to, when you talk to her, not always know who you are.
Hmm.
She says things like, sometimes she'll say, "You're the child of my child," is
Hmm.
something that she says often.
Yeah.
How much does she know of who you are? She always seems grateful, but how much does she know about who you are while you're helping
Yeah.
her?
So she always seems to. These are the three core. I mean, I don't know how many I could list, but there are some core things that she always remembers. That she remembers my name, Chris. She remembers that I'm her grandson, and she remembers that we've been together since I've been a little child. So those are the
Mm,
three things that she always remembers. Even if she'll forget one of them, if you could remind her of one of the things, whether I'm her grandchild or maybe a Chris or that we've been together since I was young, she'll be able to put all three together and say, "Oh, you're Chris, you're my grandchild. We've been together since we've been little." So those are the three core things that she always remembers. Aside from that, I don't really know what she remembers and what she doesn't anymore. Like some days she'll remember more. Some days she'll be able to tell me stories of when she was a teacher, and other days she won't remember any of it. So it's
yeah.
uh it's a roll of the dice.
Describe what you've learned about her through your time of being her caregiver, which I'm now saying giver instead of taker. I'm noticing that's
Switch.
different.
Yeah. I have let's see what have I learned.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that you can learn more about somebody every day when you've lived with them pretty much your entire life.
Hmm.
But I more and more I understand how much she was there for other people when
Mm.
she was younger. So when she was a public school teacher for about 20 years, and every day she would bring extra money to give to her students and to students of other teachers to to buy food or to use for whatever they needed, and she would do that every day and make sure that everyone was fed and make sure that everybody had what they needed, supplies, whatever. If maybe they needed to stay somewhere after school because they didn't have anywhere to go, she would provide shelter for them. She would take them to the house if they needed to.
Hmm.
She was just there for everybody else. So more and more I realized like how important she was to other people, because I'll hear from some of her students on Facebook saying like, oh, that was my teacher and she helped me out when times were rough. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing to hear for sure.
Yeah, and she seems like she has, even in her inability to take care of herself, it seems like she still translates that into, in whatever way she can. How does she take care of you in her state now?
Interesting. How does she take care of me? I think she reminds me to be grateful, and I think that I carry that with me every day. She is probably the most grateful person I know. With literally anything you do for her or with her, she's extremely grateful. Like I'll refill her water bottle, and she's like, it's like she won the lottery.
Hmm.
And it's such a beautiful reminder to just for me to be grateful and to live with gratitude in my heart, because it just makes living so much easier, so
She
yeah.
expresses, I'm a child, but she expresses gratitude for her farts. And
Yeah.
I want to understand
Yeah.
how that came to be a thing that now I know in my
Yeah.
brain. Gratitude, why is she grateful for farts and how did that start?
I don't know how it started. Oh, actually, I know where she first said it. I don't know where it came from before that, but I was transferring her to her commode, and she let out some air in the in from her butt,
Hmm.
and she laughed and she's like, "I'm so grateful that I can fart." because I know that other people aren't able to do that. And it just made me laugh 'cause it's so funny to hear, but it's so true though. Like there are many people with stomach issues that are unable to let that out, and they go through their day being really uncomfortable because they can't let it out. So yeah, that's so funny that you remember that.
Well, one, fart jokes in my family is like a staple, but
Yeah.
also just the idea. I think we don't express enough gratitude in general because we're so in our flow. Like something I do when I wake up in the morning is I wake up before the sun every morning. I'm just an
Mm.
early riser, and when the first rays of light hit my face, I say thank you, sun, because not everyone got to see you today, and that is a way for me to be grateful. And
Mhm.
I think that, why is gratitude, do you feel, important to you and her?
Um, to her, I think it's because she understands, even though she might not be in, she might not be at 100%. She understands that she isn't as strong as she was before, and that she needs a lot more help than she did before. Because she was a very independent woman growing up. Both of her parents were working, so she had to kind of raise herself. So, and she understands that times have significantly changed, and that she needs help with everything. And I think she recognizes that. And to have anybody help her with anything that she needs, she's just extremely grateful. And how does that help me?
Mm.
I think it just makes me appreciate living so much more when you're grateful for everything, when you're grateful for having water, when you're grateful for being up and having the sun, because you understand that not everybody has these privileges. And I just feel like I don't know, it just makes me a happier human, just being grateful for everything.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's something my grandma taught me too. It was really
Yeah.
interesting. Like, just to give you a little bit of like why this kind of like hit home for me. My grandma on my dad's side, she wasn't supposed to make it through the weekend.
Mm.
So we all went and we saw her resurge while we were there. And she had double pneumonia. She had a BiPAP mask on. She couldn't talk. And then all of a sudden this personality came out, and my parents, my uncles and my dad and my aunt had to go back to their life, but I had the flexibility. And so I didn't have much money, but it was like not even a question that I was going to, because I saw what family did for her well-being. And so I was in the hospital every single day for the last couple weeks of her life. Do you feel the same sense of duty as a grandson? That, like, for me, it wasn't even a thought. It was like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm going to show up for this woman because she's a part of my family and she showed up for me. Did you have that same feeling of like duty and like not even questioning it?
Yeah, it wasn't even a quite like, yeah, I didn't even, there's nothing to consider here, because this is that's just the way of life, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It's you grow up with somebody helping you out and taking care of you, and then you do the same for the person that did that for you. And that's obviously, not everybody can take it to that extreme. I understand everybody has different circumstances, and not everybody can be a caregiver or a caretaker.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but it just, to me, that it was a no brainer. I just, that's what I had to do.
Yeah, I learned so much about her. You do when you, I mean, I obviously wasn't to the same degree as you. You've been doing it for so long, but like, I learned that she loved Taco Bell. And like, I told her that if she got better, I would have them start putting Taco Bell in her IV.
Yeah.
She loved Julio Iglesias, and I speak Spanish. So I started singing Julio Iglesias songs to her. And it's just like
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, especially in typical like American culture, we just kind of like hand off that part of our loved ones' lives. And I remember just walking around that floor where she was, and how many of them were just by themselves. And I do understand that we don't all have that capacity, but it's just like, for me, if I had the ability to do it, it was like, yeah, it was no
Yeah, why
question.
not?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I think about that often too, because I get tons of messages from people saying that they wish they would have done the same, but they couldn't get themselves to do it because it's difficult to see a loved one uh, declining. And I totally understand that,
Mm-hmm.
because that was the hardest thing for me in the beginning, was just seeing my grandmother in this state. And it is difficult. It's one of the most difficult things to push through. So I totally get why some people, have to hand off the responsibility because they just don't have the strength
Mm-hmm.
to take care
It
of
is
them.
really, I think that's probably the hardest part is you remember them a certain way.
Mhm.
And then you see, like, my grandma was well spoken and elegant, and she couldn't even turn herself over or
Yeah.
speak. Um, but I'm still grateful for that
Yeah.
time.
Taco Bell in the IV, I would love that. That's
Yeah. She
sounds
also
amazing.
loved professional wrestling. I was just like,
Yeah.
who is this woman? You like get to know them on like such a different level.
Yeah, that's amazing. Taco Bell and wrestling. I mean, you can't beat. That's an amazing combo right
My
there.
95-year-old grandma was like so cool, who knew? So walk me through your schedule because it has to be pretty involved. So
Mhm.
walk me through a typical day of taking care of grandma.
Sure. So every day I get up at. I also like to rise before the
There
sun.
we go. Do you get
It's
ridiculed for that?
sometimes, but I
Sometimes.
think it's because they secretly want to do the same.
Okay, we'll go with that. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'll get up. I'll do 20 minutes of cardio. I bought a treadmill a couple years ago, and it's one of the best investments I've ever made.
Yeah.
So I'll hop on that, and I'll hop in the cold shower. I'll meditate for a bit, and then I'll prepare my grandmother's food, which every day she has oatmeal and half of a waffle.
Half of
Um,
a waffle?
half of a waffle.
Any
Can't be the full
syrup or
thing.
anything like that, or
No
just
syrup, just straight up oatmeal, banana, and half of a waffle
okay?
with a side of coffee.
The banana gets the sweetness in there.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
We've tried the syrup, but it's just a little too sweet for
Too
her.
much. Okay.
It's too much. And then I'll go to my grandmother's room, get her up, change her, uh, you know, tend to her bed sore, get her dressed, get her in the wheelchair, and then we'll have breakfast. And then I'll help her take her we call them medicine, but it's really just vitamins. It's like vitamin C
Mm-hmm.
and calcium. And then she attends this daily mass on TV. So on TFC, the Filipino channel, there's a daily mass. And
TFC. So
TFC,
the Filipino channel.
yeah, the Filipino
Okay,
channel.
got it.
Yeah, we'll throw on the daily mass, and then she'll attend mass, and then after that, I'll help her back into her bed. I'll get her, cuddled up with the blankets because it's a little cold here in Vegas. So I'll get her cuddled up. I'll give her the rosary, and then she'll pray the rosary until she nods off and falls asleep. So that's usually the routine for the morning. And then from about, so now it'll be like 9 o'clock, 9:30. From 9:30 to 12, that's where I'll have time to edit videos or make music or do anything social media related. And then at 12 o'clock, I'll help grandma again. I'll get her back up. Just the same routine that we did in the morning. Get her up, change her, get her cleaned up, get her on the wheelchair, and then we'll have lunch. And then we'll hang out from about 12 o'clock to 1:30, 2 o'clock. And then from 2 to 5:30ish, I'll go back to doing some social media stuff. I'll do a podcast or I'll edit videos, or go to the gym. And then about 6 o'clock, do the same thing that we did in the morning and afternoon, get her up, and then we'll have dinner. And then we'll hang out until about 8 o'clock. And then, I put her in her bed, and she'll be in her bed from about 8 to 7 o'clock the next day.
Wow. Your grandma and I have a very similar schedule. I'm starting to recognize. I was like, oh, I do that. Oh, I do that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did it take a while to get this schedule kind of like down?
Yeah, it took a very long time. I can't even tell you how long it took, but it took a long time for us to get a solid routine. But I found that this normalcy for my grandmother is the best thing for her, because it reminds her, she understands where she is at all times, and she knows exactly the times that she's going to go out and do certain things. So that's the best I found for her and her mental state. So yeah,
Same.
it's really nice to have routine. It's
Actual
nice for
same.
her and for me.
Yeah, I can imagine, because you kind of know what to expect from your experience with her. But so how do you have a life as a caregiver?
Yeah, so I fit my life in between when I'm helping my grandmother out. So
because this has
everything
been
is
8 years of this.
about 8 years. Yeah.
So like, yeah, what do you do to have like your own social life or like any
Yeah.
of those things?
I just fit it in. So everybody that I'm around, they know my time blocks, so they know exactly where I'm gonna be and what time I'm gonna be there. So I just fit everything around that. So the schedule, my daily schedule is it's what keeps me sane, because I know that from 3 to 5:30 I can do X, Y, and Z, and that's more than enough for me to be happy. I don't need all day to be doing other things,
Mm,
or hanging out with friends or being social. Like, if you want to hang out with me, if you want to go get lunch, like, we could do it from 3 to 4, 4:30, and after that I have to go.
yeah.
So it's it's really nice. Honestly, it took me a long time to just be comfortable with the fact that I can't do things that other people can do, but also I have the privilege of, of sort of a flexibility, because some people have a 9 to 5 and they're stuck at the 9 to 5 all day.
Yeah.
Whereas me, I just have little time blocks where I have to be with grandma, and aside from that, I can go to the gym, or do other things like work, and you know stuff like that.
Would you describe yourself as a more like introverted person?
I don't know. I'm always on the fence about if I'm introverted or extroverted. With people that I know, I'm very outgoing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can consider yourself outgoing with people that you're comfortable with,
Well,
but
yeah.
yeah, I'm just very loud, and I like to make jokes, and just have fun. But with people that I'm not familiar with, I tend to be a little
Yeah.
bit more to myself.
The reason I say that is because um, when you have someone to take care of, and I don't have someone, I have a dog.
Yeah.
Sometimes my introverted nature, when my battery runs out, I was like, hey, like I gotta go. My dog's by himself. I gotta make sure I
Yeah.
take him out and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Is that
Yeah.
ever like a good excuse for you to remove
Yes.
yourself?
100%. I use that all the time. I mean, it's true. I mean, I'm not making something up,
Right.
but it is something that I fall back on. Like, hey guys, I have to, I gotta help grandma. I gotta go.
See, I think that's fantastic. That's like an
Yeah.
introvert's dream. That's why.
But a dog is also a great reason to leave.
Oh,
So
but when someone says, and I don't know if someone said to you, like, have someone else do it or something
oh
like that.
oh man.
Oh, okay. Someone looks at you and says, I still want to hang out, have
Yeah.
someone else take care of her.
Mhm.
What do you think and how do you react?
Uh, look, I try to be like, look, it doesn't. It's not that I'm already getting flustered by thinking about
I
it.
know. It's frustrating
Yeah,
because it's almost like reducing what it is that you do or the
right.
importance of what you do. And that's kind
Exactly.
of disrespectful.
Yeah, but it's hard to explain that in the moment. It's not like, you can't just be stoic and be like, that's, who are you to think that somebody else can take on the responsibility. I just kind I for It hasn't happened in a while, but if it does happen, I'll just be like, look, man, I gotta go. All right, that's what it is. I gotta go.
Yeah, to me, that will be somebody that I would probably end up spending less time with.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, like someone, I remember I had to leave to go take my dog out. He had been by himself for a while, and they were like, oh, it's just a dog. And I'm just like, oh,
Where
I am trying to be with the Lord in this moment, but you are making it very difficult for me because anyway, I don't mean to
Yeah.
compare the two because you can't, but like, I understand it to a point.
Yeah.
So I noticed that in your content, one, you're very talented at music, like producing. Are you actually singing too, or rapping, or are you just producing for other people?
I fall more towards the producing side. I have dabbled in rapping and singing, but I think I enjoy producing more. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's my lane.
So I noticed that you had a lot of your content was surrounding like the music part of it. It
Hmm.
seems to like up about a year ago. Does that feel accurate
Hmm.
where the
Yeah.
shift happened? Describe the shift from posting about the music stuff you were doing to the decision about posting about your relationship with your grandma and being a caregiver.
Yeah, so I started a YouTube channel in 2014, and I wanted to be a vlogger, like BF versus GF, or Charles Trippy, or the OGs, I guess, of YouTube, Shay Carl. I wanted to be a vlogger,
Yeah.
and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to document my life and everything that I did. So that's what I did for a really long time. And then one day and from the beginning I've always been making music, but one day I decided to just make a video dedicated to me making music. Like, let me just make a video. How do I make a beat? Here's all the things that I do, and here's what it sounds like. And it did really well. Really well. I mean, you know, it got a couple thousand views, which is
Bro,
way better
that's
than
still
most.
good. Okay, don't downplay it.
Sorry. I apologize. Yes, it did very well. And yeah, I was like, you know what? Let me continue to do this because I think there's something here. So I continued to do that. I stopped vlogging a little bit, and I just focused all my content around music. And I was able to you know, make a good amount of money from doing that, providing value to the producer community. And I also built an online business that was surrounded around producing. And I just did that for many years. And here and there I would show grandma, like I would tell people like, I'm also a caretaker for my grandmother, like here's what we do throughout the day, and I'll just insert that in the video. And yeah, it was never like the focus of the video. And then one day I just made, on TikTok, I made a day in the life of a caretaker, and it went insane and it went viral, and all these people started, like all these news outlets started hitting me up. And I was like, wow, this is I didn't know people would be so invested in a grandson helping out his grandma.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize at the time that, you know, people would love seeing that. And I kind of put that to the side, kept making music, kept making videos about music. And then, yeah, I don't know, I just put on a mic one day. Like I mic'd myself up because I was seeing all these people in the gym doing mic'd up videos, and I was like, that looks cool, let me try that with my grandma. And then the videos, you know, those did absolutely insane.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just, so in the beginning, the whole reason I wanted to make videos was just to be able to document and be able to watch it when I'm old. That was like always the
Mm-hmm.
inspiration. And then when I started making these mic'd up videos with my grandmother, and I saw the response from people, like people saying, "Oh, I haven't heard Kapampangan in years because both of my grandparents passed away, and I moved away from my family, and I haven't heard my language in years. And like hearing you makes me feel like I'm at home."
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, that hit me close because like I grew up speaking Kapampangan and hearing it, and like that's all I know. I can't even imagine not hearing it. So, and if I were in their shoes and heard it, I'd be like, holy crap, this is like insane to hear. So, you know, that's what keeps me going. Also, the people that say that they show their children these videos and their children tell them, I want to take care of grandma, or I want to take care of you when you get older. I mean, you know, those are just a couple of reasons. There's so many more reasons why I continue to make these videos with grandma, but like those are the two reasons at the top that just inspire me to just keep documenting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have one of the last videos where my grandma could speak was the
Mhm.
intro for was part of the intro for this podcast
Oh,
for a
wow.
while, and I'm just so grateful because I didn't know that was the last time she was going to be able to speak to me, and that's why it's
Mhm.
important to document these moments. There was actually, I had a next door neighbor uh, growing up, Bernie, and his wife passed away from dementia, and he would just sit at the end of his garage and just look at the neighborhood. I was in a very like
Mhm.
typical Midwestern Leave It to
Mhm.
Beaver type neighbor. Everyone's on a half acre. Every house kind of looks the same. And I always made a point of, and my parents would do this too, my sister would do this too, is if I was in town, because I lived in California I moved to California after college, I would sit and I would listen to him. I would listen to his stories because old folks, man, they got a wealth of just like really just incredible stories. And one of those stories, he was talking, you could tell he just wanted to bro it up, you know, like, you know, he's a World War II vet, you know, like he just wanted to bro it up. And he's talking about, you know, when he was younger and like chasing women and like what his life was
Mhm.
like and stuff like that. And when Bernie passed away, I was able to hand that video to his family, and they would have never had that. So it's like, I'm sure, and maybe we could talk about this, that you get backlash for filming
Mhm.
so much of your relationship with your grandma. I'm sure some people think maybe you're just using her for clout
Mhm.
and stuff like that. Have you got comments like that? And what kind of response do you have to those people?
Yeah, I have gotten that a lot. I've seen some pretty mean Reddit threads about me. Like that was the last time I ever Googled myself
Just
or like
don't.
looked myself up.
Just
Yeah,
don't
just
Google yourself.
don't do it.
Happy
It's
people
a
don't
trap.
talk.
Yeah, that's funny. I'm gonna remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't ever Google yourself or look yourself up on Reddit. But yeah, I've seen every, I've received comments, negative comments about myself since the beginning. Even when I was just producing music, like I've received negative comments about that also.
Yeah.
So, but it does hurt a little bit more because it's about my grandmother. I have seen people say, you're exploiting your grandmother. Like, why can't you keep it private? If you're doing a good deed, why put it on camera? Like, are you even a real caretaker? Or do you just do it for Instagram? Which is
Ooh.
probably the most, like, that's the funniest one that I've seen. It doesn't make me mad. It just makes me laugh a little bit because I know what the
You
truth
just
is.
literally are for the last 8 years of your life. Like, it's not
Yeah,
even a debate. It's objectively
right.
the truth.
Yeah. So I've heard everything. What my response? I don't know. I guess I have empathy for those people because if you come across a video of somebody taking care of somebody with a mic on, and then that's all you see, you don't know anything about me, you don't know my
Mm.
name, or you don't know my background, you don't know anything. I can see how somebody would think, oh, maybe this guy's just doing it just to get views. It's similar to, when people film themselves giving money to charity or to other people that are in need. I totally empathize with other people that say that, and I used to get really upset, but now I just, I understand that not everybody's going to take the time to do their homework on me. Like nobody has the time to do that.
It's
So
usually just like I call it the finger traffic. They only see what
yeah,
they can scroll by.
exactly. So they just see a quick 15-second clip of me. They'll think negatively of it, and then they'll move on with their day. They probably don't even think about me anymore. It's like
They
it's
weren't
just
thinking about you to begin with. It's not about
exactly.
you.
Yeah, it's not about me. I guess it's more about them.
It still
So
hurts though. You're not a robot, you know?
yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. But it sucks that what really hurts me is seeing all these people say such nice things, and then one negative comment will just throw you off and ruin your
Hmm.
entire day. And it's so sad to let yourself do that because there's all these wonderful people leaving messages saying how you help them, saying that you're inspiring their kids to be caretakers, and then one person without a profile picture, stinky pants 420, leaves a comment and is like, yo, you're just doing this for likes, and then you just forget about all the people that were just saying such nice
Yes.
things, and you think about this guy and he ruins your day.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate.
There's so I mean, I've been doing content creation full time for 13 years now. And
Yeah.
I've been on every platform. All the people you were talking about, the OG people, they're my friends.
Yeah,
I started around the same time that Charles Trippy did. In fact, we used to
love
look exactly like each other and take side by side pictures every time we'd go to VidCon. Um, it really teaches you how to focus on that positive stuff. Start with that gratitude that your grandma does, like where you look at the positive. It's really difficult, but there's I don't know if you're familiar with the author Brene Brown.
that. Mm-mm.
So she talks a lot about, she's a shame researcher. She researches shame, and she
Wow.
has a bunch of great books. I'm currently finishing The Gifts of Imperfection, which is helping me with my struggle with worthiness. I'll send you all this.
Okay, cool, perfect.
She has a quote in one of her TED Talks that went viral. She goes, "I only take criticism from people who are in the arena with me,
Mm.
but you get criticism from other caregivers." So they kind of are, in a way. Does it hit harder when those people criticize you?
A little bit. So I've only received a couple of them. One that stands out is this person saying that he also cares for his dad, but he is so busy caring for his dad that he doesn't have time to film himself, which was
Hmm.
a little ironic because you have time to leave a comment about it, but you don't have time. Like it's funny. It's just a little
Yeah,
funny.
yeah,
However, it does hurt a little bit more because these people, like, these are my fellow caregivers. Like
yeah,
we're in the same boat, doing the same thing. We share the same struggles, and it hurts a little bit more. Yeah, but
yeah.
I guess I also have empathy for those people too because they're probably going through something. So
Yeah. I think one of the thoughts that I had in watching you is that I am so happy that your grandma is as grateful and kind as she is.
mhm,
I have seen very opposite. Dementia is a cruel beast, man. It
yeah,
turns people into other people. So I also have empathy for those people because I know how tough it was on my mom in the last
mhm.
moments of, like, the last stages of my grandma's life. Um, does your grandma know that she's popular on the internet?
I've tried to explain to her. I've tried to show her videos and try to show her comments. She'll read some comments sometimes, but she'll just always, I don't know. She doesn't really have a grasp of what the internet is. So to have her understand that she's popular on the internet, you'd have to explain what the internet is to her first. And where do we even begin with that?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even want to take on the journey of trying to explain that.
Oh my
So
God, how do you explain the internet?
yeah, how do you? Yeah, she's how? Where do you even begin?
I don't know. I like my brain is blanking. It's just a
Yeah,
thing.
it's just a thing that we do. It's just a thing that we're on.
That's wild. So
If you
like,
figure it out, please let me know
yeah,
so I
yeah.
can tell
I'm
her.
actually going to think about this, okay?
Okay, please
And if
do. Yeah.
anyone's listening, please if you can explain the internet,
Mhm.
I want to know. But she has to know to a degree that there are people appreciating. There's a reason the camera is up. There are people appreciating your connection. I'm assuming people send you stuff too sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
So every time people send stuff, I have her read the letters,
yeah,
and she'll just say, "Who is this from?" And I'll just always say that it's from your friend from the Philippines because that's the only way. If I try to tell her exactly what state they're from, like she'll have no idea.
no
But the
idea.
Philippines, she'll know. So I say it's a friend from the Philippines, and then she'll say, "Oh, I wish I remembered who they were." Either way,
Mm,
thank you for sending that.
mm.
Um, so that's that's her only understanding, I guess, of people's appreciation for her. But the cameras, the likes, the comment, like that doesn't even like it's hard to get her to understand that.
Yeah.
I've tried.
Oh, my grandma didn't. I've been doing this for 16 years. My grandma's like, "You do what? Okay, whatever." So
Just
are
be
you?
safe.
So are you? Were you born in the States?
Yes, I was born in Virginia. Yeah,
So are you first generation or was your previous generation
I'm a first generation
American?
child of yeah, first generation
So
American.
your
Yes,
parents were from the
they're from the
Philippines.
Philippines. Yep.
Yeah. I actually have permanent scars on both of my hands
Mhm.
from I don't like flan. I don't. But I love Filipino flan. I don't know what's
Yeah.
different about it. And
Mhm.
I was, my ex Filipino, so I was like learning
Mhm.
dishes because I like learning about other cultures. And I took it out and both I second degree burns on from the rack touching. Have you had the Filipino flan?
I have had Filipino flan. I feel like I'm gonna let a lot of people down. I'm not a fan.
What?
I know
It's
it's
literally the only type of flan I like.
it's too soft. I know it's gonna sound crazy. It's too soft and too sweet for me.
Oh
It
god.
just I
Yeah, I have
know
a sweet tooth. That's how I cope with my
yeah
feelings. That's how I So that's a question.
yeah.
How like you are dealing with someone that you love very much towards the end of her existence. How
Mhm.
do you emotionally cope with that?
I think I've been better about it lately. It used to really get me down when I think about it, but I think because we've shared so many beautiful moments together and I understand that this is just the cycle of life and that she is in no pain, thankfully, and she isn't she's not struggling, she's in great spirits and I think that's what I hold on to and thinking about her not being here with us anymore, it doesn't make me as sad as it used to, and I think I've come to terms with that. That's just the way of life,
Yeah.
that's gonna happen to all of us. So
Yeah. I kind of want I don't want to make this about me, but I do want to share at least this part of it as someone who has like watched their grandma through the end. I was only with her for the last 2 weeks, so it's not quite as extensive. But it started to when I was watching my grandma, it was like one thing after another. If it wasn't pneumonia, it was her COPD. If it wasn't that, it was bed sores. And then like it got to the point where the bed sores would have needed surgery and she wouldn't been able to survive that because she was so frail, and then she was like soiling herself, and it was just like it got to a point where it was almost harder, no, it was harder to watch her suffer than to let her go. I actually have the word listen tattooed right here on my chest in her handwriting. And um she had an advanced directive. I'm sure you've had all those talks with as a caregiver that there wasn't supposed to be any sort of permanent solution for feeding. So she wasn't able to swallow, so they had a tube in, but then one day she just took the tube out. She couldn't talk, but she spoke, if you understand what that means. And she was just refusing to let the doctors put it back in. And when I came into the hospital that day, she wasn't in her room. And I was like, where is she? Like, oh, they moved her to another floor. She took the feeding tube out, refused to put it back in. And I didn't recognize at that point that the floor they moved her to was the floor for her to pass on. And so I go up there, and it was the happiest I ever saw her. It was like the whole time I watched her smile because she had made peace with her decision. And I leaned down to her and I said, do you want to know? Sorry. I know you get it because I've seen you talk about this part of life with your grandma. I was like, do you want to know what the greatest lesson you ever taught me was? And she nodded and she said, I said, you taught me that a lot of times when people want advice, they just want someone to listen. And she smiled, and then she passed away. And it was like such a powerful moment. And while I miss her on a daily basis, I'm just so glad that she has peace now. And I'm just grateful that I had that time with her. And I know you're going to feel that same thing where you're going to be a little sad that she's gone, but you're going to be so grateful for the time that you had for her in these moments, especially as extensive and involved as you have had.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Oh my goodness, that just gave me chills.
Yeah.
That's something to hold on to for forever, you know?
Yes.
It's I think making peace with passing is one of the most beautiful things you could do for your, and it's probably the I don't know. It just makes it sound like it makes the whole process just easier when you make peace with the fact that it's gonna happen.
It just is what it is, brother. It's time to
It's what it
go.
is.
You
It's
know,
time to go,
and
man.
especially when they're in their 90s, they lived a full life. I'm sure your
Yeah.
grandma has some stories.
Mhm.
You know, has she,
Yeah.
when she was able to communicate better, did she tell you like any like really cool stories of her upbringing or like who she was or what she did?
Yeah, so she talks a lot about, and my other grandmother tells a lot of these stories too, is that when there was a war going on in the Philippines, I guess it's not a happy story, but I guess it's kind of cool to tell now that
Mm-hmm.
on the way to school or on the way to wherever they were going, there would be planes and soldiers in the street. And, you know, there was a lot of Japanese people there at the time. And, you know, they said that they made friends with a lot of the Japanese people because they were just so kind, even during a war, even while there were bombings going on, that they were able to make friends with people of some
Mm-hmm.
of the soldiers. And it's just really cool to hear that, you know, they made peace with people that were at war with their people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just you know, even though it's like a very traumatic thing to happen to them, it was nice that they could find some peace in that
Yeah.
during that time. So
I think that probably plays into why she's so grateful now is because she's experienced that
yeah.
era. Like as
Mhm.
much as we have it tough in many ways now, like I fail to compare it to like times of Great Depression or
Mhm.
World War II or
Right.
being a part, like we have relative safety
Mhm.
in this country. So I think maybe that could play into what war was that? I'm not
I'm not sure. I
okay.
just know that there was Americans and Japanese people in the Philippines during that time. I don't know who was fighting who. I don't know what the war was over, but there was a lot of chaos in the streets at the time, and I
Mm-hmm.
can only imagine. Like thinking about myself, if I were to like, if I'm just in my room and I could hear like planes flying over and like bombs happening around like nearby, I don't even know how do you live a normal life
The
after that.
anxiety around that has
Right.
to be obscene. Like you're witnessing a little bit with the Ukraine Russia thing
Hmm.
where like these people lived these, like this was my school, they show a picture of the school and now it's just like
Yeah.
gone and you're hearing explosions. Like yeah, I can't even imagine. So it really just is a testament to the fortitude of who she is, that
Yeah.
she would be able to do that and be grateful. um can you think of a story or an interaction with someone who watches your content and expressed how your relationship impacted them in a positive way? Is there a story that
Yeah.
sticks out?
Sure. I've been so lucky to like run into people that watch my videos. And it's been such a blessing to come across these people, because it never I obviously, when I started my YouTube journey, obviously in the back of your mind, you want to do well and you want to become the YouTuber, you want to be famous and like do all these
Yeah.
things. But you never think, like, you never really fully see it happening. So to have people come up to me, and it's such a blessing that it's like about my grandmother. I love that it's about that. I remember I was at the gym. I was exercising, and I was leaving a machine, and this guy comes up to me and he speaks in Kapampangan. He goes, "Are you still using this?" And I was like, "What? Like who?" Like, I've never heard Kapampangan spoken to me outside of people. Only people in my family speak Kapampangan that I know of. Obviously, I'm not saying that there aren't others, but that's the only time I hear it is with my family.
Yeah.
So to be out by myself and to randomly hear it, it hit a certain part of me that is difficult to explain. And he's like, "Are you done using this?" And I was like, and then I spoke to him. I was like, "Yeah, I am done using this." And he's like, "I watch your videos with your grandmother.
That's
I'm a
such a
huge
smooth
fan."
way of approaching too.
Right. It was very random. And he's like, "I love your videos. We're from the same place. Me and your grandmother are from the same place. I also took care of my grandmother. I love what you're doing. And please continue to make videos." And I'll never forget that, because it's like, he's from the same place as my grandmother. They speak the same language. We all speak the same language. And it's just, these videos have traveled so far.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that interaction. It was really cool.
Something I have noticed about especially Filipino people is they're so supportive of
Hmm.
other Filipino people.
It's
Is that
crazy.
just like is that something that's taught, or is there like just a pride about it? Like,
I, it's got to be a pride about it, because like, even if they're half Filipino, like I remember, I forgot the head coach of the Miami Heat. I don't think he's the head coach anymore, but he
mhm.
was half Filipino. And every time my parents saw him on TV, they would remind me like, "Hey, he's half Filipino," and I'd be like, "Oh,
So you just
okay."
straight up support him. That's it.
Yeah, you just straight up support a quarter Filipino, half Filipino, full Filipino, like whatever. If there's any sort of connection there, they're gonna connect the dots. So it's really cool to
Yeah.
see.
I love
Yeah.
it. I think it's beautiful. It was like it's
Yeah.
fun to watch. I noticed
Yeah.
it. I started noticing it with Manny Pacquiao and like
Hmm.
how rabid those like Filipino supporters were, and it was
Yeah.
like, and I just noticed that it translated across the board with just supporting your own people, which
Yeah.
I
It's
love.
cool to see.
I wish that I had that, but I'm a white
Yeah.
dude. We don't really have we don't we have many other things.
Right.
I have a couple questions from my Patreon supporters if you're down to answer a
Of
couple
course.
questions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, if
Let's do
any
it.
of you ever want to ask questions to people I have on patreon.com/unfilteredfriends, I pay for everything myself. So that's a way for you to support and I'll also ask questions. Annika says, were you always this close with her, your grandma? And did this deepen your relationship with her, being a caregiver?
Honestly, to real quick on the caregiver caretaker, I don't know what the difference is
Okay,
either.
you said taker and giver. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
follow the lead.
Listen, I know. I for the longest I said caretaker, and then when people started saying caregiver, I was like, is that more appropriate to
People
say?
be talking though. That's just how
Yeah.
people are. So
Yeah. So yes, I have always been close with my grandmother, but in the last few years, this is the closest I've ever been to her. I love my grandmother, and I always used to check up on her when she lived at a different house. I would check up on her a couple times a week, just to make sure she's okay. But when she moved in with us when she was still able to like walk and do things herself. But yeah, I've always been close with my grandmother, and this last couple years I've been a lot closer. So it's been
Mhm.
nice.
Annika also asks, how aware is she that she's towards the end of life, and does she say anything about it?
Yeah, it's sometimes it's really hard to hear her say that. She always says that the Lord is going to come take me soon. So
Yeah.
thank you so much for being here. And she says that she always she always, I don't know if she's talking to herself or if it's more for me, but she says that the people that help her are tired and that she's going to leave soon. So thank you so much for everything. Like that's kind of like the thing that she always likes to say. So I think she is understanding. She is under the impression that she is going to go soon. So yeah, it's hard for me to hear, but I think like the story that you shared, I think she's just making peace with, you
Mm-hmm.
know, that it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And they, both my grandmas had like different approaches to that. And it feels morbid when they
yeah,
start talking about it, but it's really not. It's
yeah,
just like you don't want to accept it. Have you had to go through a process of acceptance on your end where you're like making more peace within yourself?
yeah. I have. It's a lot of you know, it's a lot of self reflection and you know, through meditation, that's what has changed my life. Like
Mm.
I've been meditating, I guess meditating since I was young because I was in karate
Wait, why
and
quote
karate.
meditation?
Because it was never so when I was introduced to meditation at like 4 or 5, we used to do it for karate. Like at the end of class, everybody would sit down, close your eyes, and meditate. But it wouldn't be. I would never like be present and be doing things that you do during meditation, which is like body, like there's obviously many different kinds of meditation, but like body scanning and like being present and following your breath. And I did that for like 12 years, but I never knew why or what the benefit of it was. I was just kind of doing it because that's what everyone was doing in karate.
Mm-hmm.
And then recently, I had started doing guided meditation, and through that, that's helped me come to terms with the cycle of life and that, you know, people are born and then people go. So yeah, that's helped me a lot. And with coming to peace with that.
Yeah. I'm not very like it when it came to meditation. I was like, what is that? We just sit and we don't like talk for a little bit.
Yeah.
And so like I wanted a more practical idea of what meditation was. And I read a book
Mhm.
called 10% Happier.
Mm.
And it's a guy who was a war correspondent and was used to being in like really like intense situations. And he's just like, well, I'm fine. I'm fine. He wasn't fine. And he had a really realistic idea of like what meditation was. So anyone who's like struggling to like grasp what meditation is, that's a great book. Headspace had a really good guided meditation. That's what taught me about when you said body scan. I was like, oh, I remember that from
Mhm.
Headspace. And now I'm to the point where I where I do guided meditations for other people because it's just I don't
Oh,
know. It's so
yeah.
peaceful. You have to do that for yourself or you will lose it. You'll
Yeah.
lose your
Yeah.
mind.
But people who it's either you're on team meditation or not. Cause like the people that are not, they're like, what is that even? Like, yeah, what are you gonna sit and like not talk and breathe? Like I do that already. What do you mean?
Yeah. I breathe all the time. I was like, not like this, not like this.
Yeah, it's a
It's
little different.
I because of what I do for a living and I talk about tough subjects for a lot of people and I have opinions on the internet. I get attacked all the time, constantly. It's just like
Yeah.
part of the game. Um, I actually visualize when I am doing meditation that I'm in a dome, like a force
Mm.
field, and things are bouncing off of it, but they can't get to me for these 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And that reset sets me
Great.
because I'm sensitive. I feel like you are too. So
Oh man,
like,
I'm the
yeah,
most sensitive I feel.
especially as a man being sensitive, like you're outside of the norm in many ways, or at least the way that you choose to express it. So like having that time to like,
It's nice.
it's so nice.
It's so nice.
So, okay, if somebody is interested, inspired by you to become a caretaker for a loved one in their family, what are some of the things that you suggest they do look out for, expect, anticipate?
Um, I guess obviously every situation is different, so it's really difficult to give blanket advice. But I think the best thing you can do is, I think it's a theme of this episode. It's just uh, finding peace in what is, you know, because what you're doing, it's incredible to begin with, and it's going to be difficult. I think any sort of caregiving in any capacity is difficult. It's physically and mentally draining. So I think coming to terms with the fact that it is going to be difficult and there are days that you are going to be tested, I think knowing and understanding that and knowing that you're not alone,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it helps a lot. There are also many, many great resources online. There's many communities online. There's many Facebook groups online with caregivers. I feel like my comment section has been a great place for caregivers to come and find each other and share experiences and find other people that are going through similar things. Because outside of caregiving, it's difficult to really relate to other people, because obviously healthcare workers see a lot of things and you can relate to them, but caregiving is, especially for a family member, it can feel really isolating. So just knowing and understanding that it is going to be difficult, and to try your best to cherish these moments with the person that you're caregiving for, even if it's not with a loved one, just knowing that you get to spend time with this person towards the later years of their life. It's a beautiful thing. And, I think you should cherish that.
That level of trust is like something that has to feel so good, regardless of their knowledge of what's happening. Like they know that you're someone who's trusted and loving and cares about them. And that's a wonderful thing.
It's a privilege for sure. And I hold that near and dear to my heart, that my grandmother has full trust in me, and knowing that I can, lead the way until the end.
So if people are inspired by you and want to reach out, where's the best place for them to do that?
I guess Instagram or email. It's funny that I say email, because like usually I'll just tell younger people Instagram, because that's where Instagram DMs.
I'm not a younger person and I still say Instagram. So
yeah, but it's funny because I get so many messages from grandmas and grandpas.
That's so cute.
So it's so cute. So email is a great way to get in touch with me also.
All right. Well, thank you for being on, man. I'm looking forward to because I recently discovered you. So I did a lot of research today, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what it is that you continue to do, So thank you for giving me time, because I know that you have a limited amount.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. This was fun to do. Yeah. I appreciate it.